You don't want to become your own bank. You just want more control over your money. So in this video, we're going to give you the equation and walk you through what control actually looks like. My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And what you are a part of is a cycle. It's a cycle that continues to repeat itself over and over again. Now, what you get from that cycle that continues to repeat itself over and over again are the results that you currently have. Now, for those of us that think that adding a tool to that system is going to improve it, it doesn't. What improves it is the individual. Carmen and I, we just recently started taking some tennis lessons so that we can be more active and do something fun. But the thing is, if we went and bought ourselves new tennis rackets, new shoes, new tennis balls, and Carmen's out there in her tennis skirt, look cute, it's not going to change. It's not going to change how we play. No, it's not going to change how we play. How we play changes when we continue practicing over and over again the right way of making connection with the ball. Now, as it relates to our finances is also a game that we play. Everybody has different results based on their level of skill and how they play this game. Now,
some of us are out there with the fancy rackets and the fancy shoes and all the expensive stuff and had no game.
Right.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Right. And the thing is, as we live and breathe in this culture of consumption, we look at what other people are doing and assume that we should be doing the exact same thing. But what really matters is what's under the hood. What really matters is what's under the hood. So don't let somebody else's story be what dictates you, is dictation for you to make the financial decisions that you make. You have to get out there and practice with what you have.
Mm-hmm. So as Darius is beautifully painting this picture, I love the tennis analogy, that the point that we really want you all to understand is the definition of cash flow. Yeah. So if we can put that on the screen, the definition of cash flow is you take your income minus your expenses, and the rest, what that equals, is your cash flow. Or we'll call that your free cash flow. So, or disposable income, right? Maybe what you've also heard that to be. What you want to do is you want to leverage that cash flow as strategically as you possibly can to use that as leverage to purchase assets. What we have seen in the past, and why we're coming to do this video for you, is what we've seen in the past. If you don't have a handle on the cash flow, if you're chasing cats, right? Any racket, that you buy, any financial product that you add to this is only going to wreak more havoc on this process, because now you've added more accessories that you don't really understand, that are maybe not worth the cost right now because you don't have a handle on the cash flow. So that's why when you come to us and say, Carmen and Darius, I want to be my own banker, we go back and we look at your income health, right? And we go, do we have enough to support the need for adding this asset? And that's why when people always say, I want to become my own banker, we recognize that we think the symptom of that is control. Now, don't get me wrong. We have people that are still working through their cash flow opportunities, and we have some that have super healthy cash flow. So if you are in either bucket, the point is just to recognize, first, let's get a handle on our income. The next step should always be to protect the income, or like Darius and I say, the number one asset, because even if you go then from investing, that God forbid something were to happen to you, the income will be replaced so that it can continue to fuel your investments, right? What we typically find is that people skip the step of having protection or coverage, right? They go from their cash flow straight to investments, and there's a gap. And now what's happening is your income is just funding investments, and there's no strategy to backfill or cover the income. So if something were to happen to you, how are those investments going to continue to get funded? And how are future investments going to continue to get funded if there's no income there to be the direct source?
Right, because this cycle continues to repeat itself over and over again. And this is what we teach the next generation. So if you're teaching the next generation to just fund these investments without any insurance, go figure, without any insurance, it's just a cycle that's going to continue to feed on itself. Because let's take a look at this, just as an example. The reason why a lot of people have credit card debt is because they don't have any savings.
Or the cash flow, right? Yeah.
Because they don't have any savings. They don't have anything to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
So they continue to have things that come up, and then they get into more and more debt.
Mm-hmm.
But what you have to do is you have to have the savings so that when something comes up, you go to the savings instead of the high interest debt. That's how you get out of debt, so you can have the cash flow. Now that same system works on a larger scale when we talk about using a whole life insurance policy. You have your whole life insurance policy, which is the insurance, and then you use your income to buy the asset, or you use the cash value to buy the asset. Now, if something comes up, you have the money to make sure that you're able to sustain yourself so that you don't have to go and sell that asset. Now, let's take this a step further. Let's make it even bigger. You have the whole life insurance policy, and you have your asset, like real estate, as an example, that you're investing in. Now, your real estate is producing enough cash flow so that you can buy another asset. What you've created is a system of assets to protect you, the person that initially started it, to protect you from having to go out and make additional income, because your assets are now producing income and able to sustain itself. And this is what you teach the next generation.
And going back to what Darius said, all of this comes from control.
Right. The initial control, how you were acting when you didn't have all these things. In the tennis analogy, we showed up with what we had. And once we got better, we started adding on these different accessories. So you are going to be the exact same way. So when you come and have a conversation with us and you say you want to buy a whole life insurance policy, we're going to see how you were acting when you didn't have an insurance policy. Do you have the cash flow? Do you have a lot of third party debt with high interest? That means you weren't doing well with what you had.
And here's another scenario of a family who has healthy cash flow, but it's just misdirected right now. So we have a husband and wife. The husband is the breadwinner. Mom is a stay-at-home mom, and the husband has a business, and he's able to have enough cash flow where he's able to invest in real estate and able to invest in other businesses. But he really doesn't have much life insurance. When I say much, I mean like maybe $500,000 of death benefit, and he's investing in all these things. So the conversation we were having with this couple is they were like, oh, well, the investments will pay for the house and everything else. So we actually did the exercise where we had them tally up all of their expenses, the mortgage, their day-to-day bills, monthly things like that. And then we looked at the numbers and they said, oh my goodness, we actually don't know how long the wife will be able to keep their expenses going because so much of their cash flow is going towards the investments. So with that being said, we then had to evaluate, okay, if the husband's income is $500,000 a year, $600,000 a year, we need to make sure that that is protected for 10, 15, 20 more years to come, so that that money is always there to continue to pay the bills at home and pay all of the bills and the investments that they're continuing, and that the family will then have to sell the assets to then pay for the regular day-to-day expenses that they need.
Right. So life insurance keeps you from taking backward steps. We always want to move forward. And if something comes up in our lives, the last thing we want to do is take a backward step and have to sell an asset or have to go into debt. That's the last thing that we want to do. So insurance is very important to everybody, in our opinion. Term life insurance helps you while you're building, and whole life insurance is a permanent solution so that you can continue focus on building your assets without having to worry about if something was to happen to you. Now, here's another thing. When we talk with clients, we ask them, okay, you have income. What are you able to sustain yourself on 40% of your income? Let's say you get injured and you're not able to go back to work and you're only getting a fraction of your income. Are you able to still provide for your family and maintain those assets? Well, that's when disability insurance comes into place. So the thing is, you have to be able to articulate exactly where you're going, and it starts with your ability to be able to consistently articulate your free cash flow. That's the foundation of it all, to build everything that you're going to build for yourself and your family for generations to come.
And we can also add on long-term care if we're going there as well. What happens if you need to go into hospice? What happens if your parents or your brothers and sisters, your husband, spouse, whoever it is needs to go into hospice care? How is the income going to pay for that?
Right.
And these are all of the things that we talk about control. You need to have all these insurance concepts understood in your household so that at the end of the day, the income will never be the reason why you can't support your family at home. right? And in their last days, the income will never be the reason why I get injured at work and I can't keep the lights on. The income will never be the reason why I couldn't afford whole life insurance policies so that my family could keep the lights on when I'm no longer here. That's when we are having the conversation of control. Get your cash flow together so that you can then purchase the control that you need, preserve your freedom to choose what you can do with your family, and then from there we build. And that's the order that we find control or becoming your own bank really comes to play, is because you have control in the decisions that you're able to have. And the cash flow is really that banking function. That's going to be the thing that you use to navigate to determine which directions you take.
Right. The only thing we can sell you is tools, and tools are only as good as the person using them.
What he said. So if you want our help, with that being said, we would love to support you and your family. Click on the link below so that Wealth Nation can support you so that you can create more control over your lives.
Remember to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.